Hi, everyone. It is an absolute honor to be up here talking to you about a concept that I think it's quite instinctive when we talk about understanding it. My aim up here is not to give some sort of magical formula that's going to transform us into wonderful human beings, because there simply isn't an algorithm for human compassion, and that makes the whole thing more worthwhile and more lasting. We find often that we tend to forget about one of the most profound parts of the human experience, and that is our ability to care for one another, to conscientiously care for one another. And it's not a surprising thing, because the world we live in isn't exactly perfect. We can't always go about our lives thinking that everything's wonderful and be filled with love and hope and happiness for the future. Now, we could possibly attribute this to the fact that there are very stark differences amongst our personalities and that of those around us, which lead to disagreements. However, if we were to be living in a homologous society where sameness was preached, well, more so than it is now, I don't think we would have been able to further this much as a species. Individuality has furthered us more than homogeneity could have ever hoped to do so. One thing is for certain. If it weren't for our ancestors, if it weren't for our human beings, we wouldn't be where we are right now. I would like to propose that with every new generation, with every new group of people that walk across this earth, humanity is renewed. It is replenished. It is resuscitated with a slew of knowledge, skills, an entirely new outlook to life. It is through this interconnectedness that we have been able to further. We can relate to one another. And this is the concept of Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a South African humanist philosophy. It is an Nguni proverb meaning a person is a person through other persons. Now, the fundamental idea behind this is that we thrive through one another. Because everybody has special skills and talents that could benefit the greater good. Now, Ubuntu preaches selflessness, so that these skills and talents may be used for the greater good. So you may benefit from whatever everyone else has to offer, and everyone else may benefit from whatever you have to offer. My very being up here is a testament to this idea. See, my first draft bored my mom senseless, so that had to go right out the window. I started all over again, back to the drawing board. And in the second draft, I managed to confuse not only myself, but my English teacher, who's a very formidable gentleman. And then I went on to the teacher who introduced the concept of Ubuntu to me. And it became clear what I had to do, which is this speech, basically. Now, apart from the people who helped me with the making of this speech, I've got friends who encouraged me to stand up here and speak to you. I am thriving because I have all of these people around me. I'm thriving because of all these people who help me thrive. I like to think of Ubuntu as meaning I am because you are, implying that my humanity is as a result of recognizing that of your own. Let me put this into context. Archbishop Desmond Tutu was a very prominent figure in the anti-apartheid movement in the 1980s, and he had this to say about Ubuntu. My humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together. This resonated with the people of South Africa deeply, because this was a time of racial segregation. It was institutionalized racism by the African National Party. It reminded people of their humanity. It reminded them that in order for the nation to progress, to move forward, they had to recognize everyone as being equal, same. Now, there are numerous definitions for what humanity can mean. Some may choose to go with it as being the sum total of all human beings who have ever existed on planet Earth. But I'd like to approach it with humanity as meaning the trait of being humane, the quality of displaying benevolence. Now, benevolence it's a rather big word, and I don't just mean in length, I mean in the mass it carries in terms of meaning. Benevolence is something we associate with a god, and that is a testament to how very difficult it can be to implement. We've all had New Year's resolutions of being nicer to people, and it's difficult to say the least, because we do coexist amongst some very interesting people. Yeah, but we try. The fact that we try at all could separate us. It does separate us as a species, because we recognize that while the circumstances of those around us are different, fundamentally, we are the same. We all have some days when we're just not feeling it. It's not going our way. And that's when we seek comfort in our family and our friends. That's when we're reminded of how important it is to have a support system. And it's in those times when we get these weird urges to be there for people who we don't really like. We're reminded to pay it forward. Now, Ubuntu maintains that because we're all human, our experiences are largely similar. Not exactly the same, but largely similar. We can relate to good days, and we can relate to bad days. So when someone we care about comes to us with an experience that they're really happy about, or something that they're not happy about, we tap into these experiences and we empathize with them. Not sympathize. Nobody wants pity, and if they do, they're not ready for the healing process yet. They need to want to change, and that helps. You can help them with empathy. This could be either understanding what they were going through, but like I mentioned before, no two experiences are the same. So when understanding doesn't quite work, acceptance is where we find comfort in. When some people confide in others, it's not that they're looking for answers. They just want a voice. They just want to understand, get a sense of what exactly it is that they're feeling. And in order to do this, sometimes we just have to trust in people. There's no fixed way of approaching human emotion. And like I said at the beginning of my talk, it just makes it more interesting. Now that brings me on to my next point. We're talking about blind faith here to an extent. Should we be implementing Ubuntu at all? It's a very idealistic concept, and it assumes that all human beings are fundamentally good, when this may not necessarily be the case. See, I would like to elaborate. I would like to allow us to think of a more brighter future. We're told too often about how unpleasant the world is, about how dire situations are. And I cannot say for even a second that the world we live in is perfect, because it is not. It is not perfect, not by a milestone. But we can appreciate what we have. We can be grateful for what we have. And in that way, we can help others thrive. We're lucky to be alive. We're lucky to have the capacity to experience love, to experience happiness, sadness, anger, resentment. Yes, anger and resentment and sadness, because you can't know when you're high if you don't know what it feels like to be low. We've got things like music. We've got things like books, poetry. We can witness the wonderful world around us. We can travel. We have all these things to do and to be grateful for. And I would like to propose that all of these things are as a result of our fellow human beings. We share our happy moments, we share our sad moments with those around us, because they can relate to, they can understand vaguely what we're trying to say to them. We're introduced to new music, to new books, poetry, places, by people around us who care enough to share them with us. It's like that bond you have with the person who introduced a wonderful piece of music. Now, I personally will never stop being grateful to my 7th grade English teacher for teaching me Fahrenheit 451, which I'm sure quite a few people in the audience here could remember. Now, that book fundamentally changed the way I thought, and I will forever be grateful to her for it. I can appreciate my existence wholly because I've got all of you around me to share it with. See, human beings are social creatures. What good would a birthday be if you were to be alone in a dark room with a melting candle and a piece of dry fruitcake mumbling happy birthday to yourself? Things like birthdays, funerals, friendship days, even death anniversaries. These are all celebrating those around us. These are all celebrating the human spirit, celebrating people who had a profound impact on us, whether they changed the way we thought, made us feel better about ourselves, or just introduced us to something new. But these are all rather grand ways of implementing the concept of Ubuntu. I would like to tell you that political movements, organizations, grand celebrations are not the only way we could be approaching this. There are smaller ways with which we can be changing society, actively changing society. Say hi to someone you haven't spoken to in a while, to a long-lost friend. Ask someone how they're doing and actually care about how their day's going. You could introduce them to things that make you happy. I would like to end my talk off by saying humanity, it never really died. I don't think it ever did. The human spirit is one of great endurance. It's hard to quench it, basically. It just needs a new outlook. It just needs a whole new outlook that I think this generation could bring to the table. It's just a question of how we make it better for those around us. And that is what Ubuntu preaches. Thank you.